Giannis Antetokounmpo, Victor Wembanyama, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Joel Embiid, Zion Williamson, Trey Young, John Morant, Jalen Williams, Paolo Banchero, and more guys are out right now at this very moment in the NBA. All these stars are out at the same time. There's been a lot of soft tissue injuries. There's I believe Steve Kerr came and said that he thinks it's the pace, it's the schedule, it's just the difference in the way they're playing the basketball game today that is the cause for these injuries. Kenny, could you give us a little insight into this and give your perspective and your thoughts on this?
So I've always held a couple different opinions when it comes to this. I think that the injury concerns are caused from a lot of things. I think they start from even when these players are from a young age. I think that a lot of these injuries come from lack of cross training. Kids are specializing in sports way too young, and it's making their body move in a very specific way repetitively, which puts more wear and tear on your joints, especially if you're not used to moving your body in more than one direction, in more than one context. But that's how I started off. But with the number of injuries that are happening more frequently, I wanted to look at the science behind it. And I actually went and started researching. And there's actually been a lot of good research done. The very first one I wanted to look at was I wanted to look in the past, because one of the things that happens the most is people like to refer to how we're getting injured more now than we did in the past, or how players used to play through injuries more so in the past than we do now. And there is a research study done on it, measuring the injury trends for 17 years, back from 1988 all the way to like 2000 something. I can't remember the exact year off the top of my head. And what I found very interesting was that the things that they noted was the amount of soft tissue injuries are considerably less than they are now. Back then, most of the injuries were knee related and more so joint stability related, rather than soft tissue as in tears or strains and things of that nature. There's a lot of ankle sprains back in those days. And when we look at the trend from the most recent study, which was studying from the mid 2010s to the late 2010s, the rate of injury, it actually has remained steady. But as you see it to get to 2019, you can start seeing an increase. And that's when you start seeing more of a shift from play style, going from the early 2010s double big lineups to more spacing oriented as you start progressing into the late 2010s, how the rate of injury would remain steady for the most part. And then you start seeing an uptick, and then that uptick continues to climb as you get to the 2020s where we're at now. So if I take those data points and kind of mix them all together and come up with the conclusion at the end of it, I think a couple of things can be reached. One, injuries definitely are occurring more, but the reason why is not from overuse and I think play time and number of games played, but has more so come from the advancement of the game, the change in technology when it comes to not only the court texture and also the shoes that we use, but also the specialization of the sport. As you see from athletes as a younger age, where sports specialization was less pushed and people were playing both football, baseball, and basketball and being elite in all of those, but then also the athletic technology increased throughout the years, that the type of injuries started showing based on that sports requirement.
Kenny, stay right there. Why can't we just stay with the shoes? Why can't we stay right there with the shoes? You just told me the technology is different. So it sounds to me like this car has gotten faster. This car has gotten more advanced. The hardwood hasn't changed. The floor is still 94 feet by 54 feet. It's still hardwood. It sounds like the car has gotten faster. So if the car has gotten faster, why haven't the tires been changed? Because a lot of these guys, what I'm thinking about when I see these guys on the floor, a lot of these guys that are having these injuries, they're dealing in low top sneakers. That's what I'm thinking about when I think about seeing these guys. Bryant tears his Achilles, low top shoes. Jason Tatum, low top shoes. Damian Lillard, low top shoes. Tyrese Halliburton, low top shoes. I think the shoes are the biggest issue more than anything. Because again, when I think about a car and I think about the technology of that car and you want to run that car faster, you got to change the tires. You can't have the same tires that you had because it's not about the game being faster. We've seen the game fast before. This is now we might not have seen the game as fast as, I don't know, this frenetic pace in terms of three-pointers, but we've seen the game fast before. We've seen teams going up and down. I think the equipment is the biggest issue here. The athlete, because you're telling me that the athlete in today's game is more advanced, he's stronger, he's bigger, he's faster. If all of this stuff is going on and the equipment hasn't caught up, what that tells me is this athlete is going to break down. Because I don't think that the court hasn't changed. The wood is still the same. I don't think any of that matters. I definitely think that it's the equipment more than anything.
Well, I obviously I don't know. I don't know exactly what's going on as far as that goes. But I know for sure when I was growing up, I wasn't allowed to wear low top sneakers. Like that, it wasn't happening. I wasn't allowed to play basketball in low top shoes, growing up. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or if that's just, maybe my pops is having an old head mindset or whatever it might be. But low tops for me and my sister were no good, never. But I also, I've also seen, and I don't know, maybe y'all know about this. I don't know about this. I'm just speaking on something that I heard, is that these basketball shoes and just kind of athletic shoes in general just aren't really good for the human feet anyway. You know what I'm saying? Just because it doesn't allow our toes to spread, how it has our toes bunched up and whatnot, and running like that isn't really good for you either way. And not just in basketball, just in regular shoes walking around and just sports in general. So I don't know if y'all know anything about that, but I just wanted to just you
being a track guy, and I know you got a point, real talk, but you being a track guy, I mean, it's different running 100 yards in these kind of shoes as opposed to running 100 yards, then running another 100 yards, then running another 100 yards at that pace in these specific shoes. My feet aren't going to hold up. That's just not going to work. And
have y'all ever looked at your feet?
Yeah.
Like, have you ever spent time really looking at your feet and just people's feet around you, maybe your girl's feet or anything like that? And have you ever seen your kids' feet or a youngster's feet and seeing the difference in our feet as opposed to theirs? I look at my son's feet, my daughter's feet, their toes still have space between them when they walk. It's spreads, and my feet, I can get my right foot, I can get my toes to spread. My left foot, I can't do it. You know what I'm saying? And then I've seen where people were talking about even in studies where they, back a long time ago when people predominantly were wearing sandals or moving bare feet, how naturally throughout life their feet had more, spread and was able to, when you're walking, grip better. And now it's like this.
So, couple things. I want to make sure I didn't lose the points. I was really trying to make sure I was listening. You guys all have the right idea. You're just coming to the wrong conclusion. All right, that's the thing. Right idea, wrong conclusion. The technology for shoes has improved drastically, but it is improved in the same way, going back to the car analogy of how they make hypercars nowadays, where they make cars to be as as fast as they can go,
Sure,
aerodynamic as they can go, but are they good at bringing home groceries? You know what I mean? Versus a hypercar is designed to do one specific thing. It's to drive really, really fast on a track. Now, if you take that same car and then make it have to drive on a highway or just a normal street road, it's going to struggle because of how low to the ground it is. It's going to get banged up. It's going to go fast, but through the clearance of trying to make it go as fast as possible, it is going to struggle just doing everyday normal road stuff. So when you translate that to basketball players' shoe technology is designed to cut fast, really good grip, cushion when you jump. However, back what Ox was saying with how the shoes are shaped, they're shaped so that when you plant a certain way that you can cut and dribble. See, we talk about all the time how how low he gets when he dribbles and when he cuts.
Sure.
That is what those type of shoes are designed for. However, people's feet aren't strong enough to support, and actually just the human body is not strong enough to support that type of movement consistently as many times as it happens in an NBA court every single day. So it's a mix of both of how we're trying to specialize so much to be as efficient as possible to do these things on the basketball court, but the technology is starting to put more and more wear on our bodies.
Real talk. That sounds like the tires on this car need to be better. That's what it sounded to me like.
It's actually different.
When this car's hitting this corner, them tires need to be better. The current tires that I have, these tires don't work on this car. That's what it sounds like to me. What you're saying, Multi Kenny.
No. It's not the tire. It's the suspension system. It's a suspension system, which is your legs. The tires are doing what they're supposed to do.
Sure.
But the suspension system can't handle that type of force being exerted that many times so often. So it's not necessarily the fact that it's a low top shoe or a high top shoe. It is the fact that you guys are trying to cut, jump, land, go as fast as you want to do in shoes that are designed to do that. But your body cannot take that so often as much as you guys want.
I think a good look, it's a good point because I don't think that these big manufacturing companies are engineering shoes that are going to be detrimental to basketball players. Obviously, they're catering the shoes to basketball players, but I think there is, like Lonzo Ball was a great example, where the big baller brand shoe was really bad for him athletically, and I think it led to a lot of the time being hurt. But Multi-Ken, I think the younger days thing is an interesting point where we're seeing the injuries in isolation, but maybe they're accumulative over a number of years. Because I remember I spoke to Gordon Hayward last year, and he said, like, and Ox, you could probably speak to this, but kids like 7, 8 years old now, they're playing so many games that their body isn't physically mature for yet. And maybe we don't see the effects of that yet, but down the line we might do, because they're doing so much early damage on a body that's not ready for it. So I think that's a really interesting point where we're seeing some injuries potentially in real time, but maybe they've actually originated far earlier.
So you think it's just catching up right now, Damien?
I think there's definitely an element of that when it comes to soft tissue, because if you're in perfect health and your body's in perfect health, your muscles won't really go. But when there's other factors at play, whether it's load, whether it's sort of accumulative fatigue and all those different things, I think that's when you can start seeing some of these lower leg injuries. And sometimes it's not even in the place where you're injured. So you can get a calf injury, but really it's because your back isn't carrying the load or your glutes aren't carrying the load they should. So I think all these things matter as well. Yeah, I
know that for a fact. I've experienced that myself, but just hurting my ankle and it turned into my knee and my hips and stuff like that. I've definitely felt that. I think that's an interesting point, Damien, and I hope at some point, the youth. The youth athletics, whatever, I think maybe they need to catch up. I know they've been trying to do a lot of things with football and things like that. Maybe not down there in Texas, real talk. I know y'all still gutter with the football, hopefully we can figure this out. Whatever the cause is, whether it's the pace, whether it's the equipment, whether it's the amount of games the youngsters are playing, whether it's just not playing different sports, because I think that's also a very interesting topic, Kenny. I think playing different sports to get your body stronger. So I'm not sure. Obviously, I know I don't have the answers, but I think we'll get there, y'all. I think we'll get there.
Real talk didn't like my my rendition of low top sneakers. I can tell.
Yeah, no, I just don't think. I think they do the science, right? I'm pretty sure that if low tops were the problem, I think the organizations in the sports science world and the trainers who do this for a living probably would have figured that out by now.
What if they don't know yet? Real talk. To Damien's point, it could be like what he was saying. He was talking to Gordon Hayward. Maybe it just takes time. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's not like a overnight thing. Maybe that is something. If you've been wearing low tops since you were 14, by the time you get 23, it might have an effect on you. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes sometimes it takes a while to study certain things. Now, I don't know. I was just saying what I was allowed to do. So I can
get what the concept concept of like AAU is a very taxing system of basketball for young players. It is. You can play 2, 3, sometimes 4 games in a day. So it is a lot of wear and tear on the body that way. I can see that fact of it being cumulative and that affecting you, once you hit the league. But the shoe part in particular, again, to me, I just feel like they probably would have figured that out by now.
Man, though, real
Right,
talk. KD
right.
popped Achilles.
So
Damian
I
Lillard
actually,
popped Achilles. Tyrese Halliburton
Mhm.
popped Achilles. All of
so
these
here's
guys, they're
the
wearing low top
I'm-
shoes.
But
All of
I'm
these
sure
guys.
though,
I'd like
Kenny,
to think that has
But
something
also
to do with it.
wearing jerseys, so
yeah, it's like
well,
it's
that has
causation
nothing to do with
versus
it.
correlation. All right. So,
also wearing
and I want
socks.
to understand like the since I am more running is more of like my sport. That's a sport that I devote everything to. So things like shoes are super important because whether you are running for hundreds of miles or you're running for just sprints, you have to wear basic shoes. You have to understand why you wear the shoes that you do. Okay. So for a basketball shoe like this, okay. For this shoe, this is I would classify more of a mid top than a high top. But you have to understand that what it's designed to do is to cup and support your ankle. However, the trade-off for that is ankle flexibility. Okay. So a high top has its position. If you're someone who has ankle issues and it's something that you can't strengthen over time, you would want something with a little bit more support so it can help cup your ankle and keep you stable.
Mhm.
However, if you are someone who has good ankle strength, you would want something low. That's why every single runner has low tops. There's no such thing as a high top running shoe.
Sure.
It's just it's super counterproductive. Okay, but what they do instead is they do something called an ankle lock, where you lock your ankle in place to make sure it's not moving too much laterally side to side. Okay. And the ankle lock is where you just take this loop and then put a shoelace through it and lock your ankle down. So it's not necessarily the shoes. And like Real Talk says, they do the science for this. The reason why high top sneakers in general are there is for that ankle support, but you're actually more likely for something to happen outside. Like if you wore high tops your entire life and then you switch to low tops, yeah, you're going to be at risk because your entire stabilizing muscles and ligaments, things like that, are weakened because you've been wearing high tops all your life, especially when you're playing. If you start off with low tops, you should, in theory, have stronger ankles because your ankles are used to taking that load. Now, everyone's physiology is different, and how people strengthen that and could be different. And I think that's where most of the issue is that sometimes they don't strengthen the things that they need to. And then if you start training and start playing super, super competitive sports from a young age, you don't know how your body's going to progress. You don't know the type of weight distribution you're going to have, how tall you're going to get, how proportional you're going to be. That's the type of stuff that goes into these type of injuries. If you're playing that much and you're having to play while you're going through a growth spurt, you don't know the type of wear and tear you're putting onto your lower extremities.
I think the biggest part of the conversation isn't necessarily the equipment, but I do think, because I actually listened to Steve Kerr had a answer for this because a reporter asked him, I think it was pregame before they played Orlando yesterday, and I took his answer into account because obviously he played and now he's coaching, and he played in a time where they did wear high top sneakers and things of that nature. But he said the main thing he would attribute this to is the pace of the game. Like he said, they're playing extremely fast, but not only are they playing fast, Chill, it's now everybody is a 3-point threat. So now they're covering more ground. And he said that they are tracking this data, and that's what the conclusion is. They're moving more than ever before. They're running longer miles than ever before. So the pace of the game, I think, is the main contributor to that, because you just put yourself in more situations, and the more you put yourself in situations, the more bad things are going to happen.
Is this the same Steve Kerr who basically started this whole thing? So how do we remedy it? How do we remedy this? Like, you started this whole thing, Steve. What are you talking about? Right?
So I want to address one of the things that you said, Real Talk. It's not necessarily when they kind of bring up the mileage. I remember Swiper brought this up a couple weeks ago, and I really had a problem with it. because I feel like it's a scary thing. Like, oh, they're running X amount of miles more than they did back in the 90s, things of that nature. That's not the problem. And actually, the difference is very marginal. It's very, very marginal, especially if you spread it out between 82 games. Very marginal. The issue is how they're running those miles. Instead of it being a more vertically or lateral, or not lateral, vertical amount of movement, it's a lot more lateral. It's a lot large stop, start, side to side, which is why you're seeing so many injuries, and especially the stop start from having to close out, having to switch, and the amount of times they have to do that per possession and per game. That's the issue. It's how. It's not necessarily the amount of distance they're traveling, it's how they're traveling that said distance, which is what's causing the wear and tear.
Right. And also attacking a closeout. That's the other side of it. Because really, that's when we've seen, I'm pretty sure 2 of them go, right? So in the 90s, you didn't really maybe have to worry about attacking a closeout quickly per se, because I'm not saying at all, Ox, but I'm saying there are people that, like, you know, they were left open, so nobody was actively closing out to them and stuff like that. So you didn't have to worry about like quick change of direction, putting the ball on the ground, yada yada yada. But if you remember, I'm pretty sure the Tyrese Halliburton one and the Jason Tatum one, I want to say they took like that step back you take when you're attacking a closeout.
Yeah.
So it's not only covering them but attacking them as well.
And that's funny. I was gonna say, real talk, I don't know why. Because nowadays they don't even close out; they just do them fake ass fly-by contests. Like you're not even,
fly-by,
you know what I'm saying? You're not even trying to. You're just pretending, making it look like you're trying to get out there. You're just jumping.
But you know that we can't close out like we did back in the day because one, I'm in your landing space, and if I'm in your landing space, that's a foul today. And if you happen to come down on my foot, that's a flagrant foul. So I got to be very careful how I'm closing out on you.
Right. That's why you break your feet down and you don't jump. You don't leave the ground. You close out, get your hand up, and you don't get in their landing space. You don't just fly out there. You break your feet down. That way, when they do try to go by you, you can beat them to the spot this way. Beat them to the spot this way.
I'm 1,000% with you.
But I think
way too many fouls on threes nowadays because of that.
Right, it's ridiculous.
How many times have we seen guys?
If they would just close out, chill. If they would just close out, then a lot of that would stop happening. But I don't know. But you know what though? When you if you're not moving when the ball moves, if you're waiting, you know what I'm saying, if you're slow on defense, and you have to close out when they catch the ball, you're cooked, because at this point, like you said, everybody can shoot. So I mean, hey, it's you know, a lot of it is because people are so good at shooting that long ball now. And I think we can all acknowledge that. Like everybody's working on shooting that 3 ball. So you nowadays, even more than back in the day, you have to move as soon as that ball is in the air. You can't wait. Or else you're either going to have to do one of those fly-by closeouts, or you're just going to have to watch because it's a layup, you know. So,
and Ox, back
basketball has definitely advanced.
To the original point, though, I think it's never good to see these guys lose time, but it's also going to give us an opportunity for some other guys to get bigger roles. You know, Wemby's a good example. Even last night, missing out, but Jeremy Sohan has a good game. Harrison Barnes has an expanded role, so maybe we should start celebrating some of those guys as well.
Who else was getting busy over there in San Antonio, David?
Jeremy Sohan.
The guy. No. The guy that went crazy in the third quarter, ended the game with the windmill dunk. That guy.
Yeah.
The one who's not needed.
The one apparently
that one.
Join way.